Once the jury is selected, a criminal trial has 5 main parts: opening statements, the presentation of evidence, closing arguments, jury deliberation, and sentencing.
An opening statement is an overview of the evidence that will be presented to the jury by the prosecution and the defense.
Next is the presentation of evidence. In a criminal trial, the prosecutor goes first and the defense goes second. Evidence is presented in the form of witness statements and material evidence that then must be identified and discussed by witnesses. How long that process takes really depends on how many witnesses there are, whether there are issues that arise mid-trial, and the length of the witness's testimony. Some witnesses are quick because they're only bringing specific information. Other witnesses, like outside experts, can take over a day to present all their evidence. Since the burden of proof is on the prosecutor to prove the defendant is guilty, it's never the job of the defense to prove innocence. Instead, the defense can argue that the state has not done enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused is guilty.
Next, the attorneys from both sides give their closing arguments. This is where the prosecution and the defense can sum up the case and make arguments on behalf of their side, asking the jury to decide in their favor. Because the prosecutor has the burden of proving guilt, they get to argue twice.
The jury then deliberates. There is no set time for the jury to make a decision about whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty. It can take a few hours, days, or weeks. In Minnesota, the jury's verdict has to be unanimous, meaning all the jurors have to agree. Once a jury has decided whether the defendant is not guilty or guilty, they write this on a verdict sheet and give it to the judge.
All parties are required to return to the courtroom. The verdict is read out loud, and all members of the jury are polled to ensure that they agree with the verdict.
If the defendant is found not guilty, they're free to go. If they're found guilty, then the parties prepare for sentencing, which can happen immediately, but is often delayed in felony-level cases. If the court is considering an aggravated sentence, then the parties will argue to the jury whether any aggravating factors exist.
For example, if a child was present, that could lead to a longer sentence. That argument must be done prior to sentencing because the jury must determine whether those factors exist.
As you can see, this is a complicated and lengthy process. The anticipated time for Derek Chauvin's murder trial is currently 6 weeks.